Howdy folks, Josh here with the Weekend Angler, back with another Short Tip Saturday video. And guys, in this week's video, I'm going to be showing you a quick down and dirty method that you can use to repair broken line guides on your fishing rods. Alright guys, if you're like me, your bank fishing gear probably isn't your most maintained equipment. Guys, I throw my bank fishing rods at the back of the truck, drive down to wherever I'm going to fish. They get beat, they get banged, they get laid up on rocks, and over time, things get damaged. And that's what happened recently with this Okuma 12-foot spinning rod that I have. As you can see, one of the feet have broke away from the rod blank. It wasn't epoxied well to begin with, but what we're going to be doing today is getting this epoxied back to the blank. That way this fishing rod is usable again. Now guys, you're going to need a couple things to do this project. You're going to need some quick set epoxy. I'm using the Gorilla brand 2-part epoxy. Comes in a double syringe tube, makes it really easy to use. You'll also need some kind of a thread or braided fishing line, and that's what we're going to be using today. I've got some leftover braid that was the remnants of a spool I was using to fill reels. We're going to be using that 50-pound braid to tie this thing to the rod when we epoxy it. So let's go ahead and go over to the workbench. I'll show you guys how we do this. We'll get this rod back into commission and we'll be good to go. Step 1. Using a file or a rotary tool with a grinding bit, remove the old epoxy from the rod until the rod blank is exposed. Be careful to avoid damaging the rod blank. Step 2. Brush away the dust left from Step 1. Push down on the foot of the line guide to make sure it fully contacts the rod blank. Step 2. Open your 2-part epoxy. Apply equal amounts of resin and hardener to your mixing paper. Mix it thoroughly using the supplied tool. Step 4. Apply a small amount of epoxy to the line guide foot and the rod blank. Step 5. Tie an overhand knot towards the end of your thread or braid. Pull to tighten. Step 6. Secure the line to the rod blank using an arbor knot. I've overlaid a diagram of the arbor knot to help you tie it. Step 7. Slide the knot over the leg of the line guide and pull the knot to tighten. The first overhand knot will slip to the second and allow the knot to fully tighten. Step 8. Holding the line tightly, begin wrapping line around the rod blank. Make sure the line guide foot is tightly held to the rod blank. Do at least 20 to 30 wraps. Step 9. Cut your line and tie it to the original tag end using a pair of overhand knots. Pull the knots tightly, then trim the ends. Step 10. Apply epoxy to the line wraps. Use the tool or a brush to fully coat the wraps. Step 11. Turn the rod slowly while epoxy hardens to prevent drips. Alright guys, well that's going to pretty much bring us to the end of this week's video. Obviously you could take a little bit more time, make that look as pretty as you want. But guys, I'm being realistic here. This is my bank fishing gear. This is going to get beat, banged around. The rods get painted. They don't have to look great as long as they function. And that epoxy with the braided fishing line is going to give us enough strength to keep that line guide tight to the blank and make this a usable fishing rod. Guys, this is about a $35 rod. Decide for yourselves whether you would want to do this to something a little bit more expensive. Personally, I would look more into having a professional do that in those cases. But we've got this cheap rod back ready to go. We'll let the epoxy harden up, and it's going to be ready to catch fish again. That's all I've got for this week. If it's helped you out, please take a moment, hit that like button. If you're checking me out for the first time, take a moment, hit that subscribe and the little bell next to it. Guys, take care. Until next week, we'll catch you out on the water.